I told my wife she had brought me nothing but misery, and that having a child with her had been the worst decision I had ever made. What I said now makes me sad. Reposting because my previous post was removed. My marriage has lasted for 4 years. From a prior relationship, I have a child who is 5 years old. From my first serious relationship when I was in college came my daughter Leah, who is now 5 years old. My ex-partner confessed to being unfaithful and was not emotionally prepared to start a family, so we broke up not long after she was born. My wife is adored by my daughter. Unless there's drama, my ex-partner doesn't really care about my daughter or myself. My wife is effectively her mother as she did not desire visiting rights or custody. Her due date is approaching 8 months. She denies there is anything wrong with me, but she has kept me in the dark about the pregnancy the whole time. To put it bluntly, I'm insulted and disregarded. She informed me while I was preparing breakfast that we had just heard she was pregnant. Naturally, I was overjoyed. Nevertheless, initially I inquired about her well-being because it was an unexpected pregnancy. Her excitement was so great that she started smiling and weeping. I embraced her, showered her with kisses ad nauseum, and expressed my own joy at becoming a mother, all while telling her how much she would be an incredible role model. No big deal, is it? She made a point of telling everyone else about it. Things like nicest big sister cups, t-shirts, and balloons in boxes. I thought she wanted to know how I felt about expanding our family before we celebrated, so she made the announcement casually with me. My wife, on the other hand, wasted no time telling her sister that he didn't receive a box when I asked how I liked it. He has competed in rodeos before. In order to go to the ultrasound appointments, I had to drag her arm like a dog. She made one excuse after another about how she didn't want me to be absent from work or disrupt Leah's routine. My wife began to shed joyful tears the second we listened to the heartbeat. The technician was gushing over our adorable little one, the strength of the heartbeat, and other details. I cleared my throat to keep from sobbing because I was feeling a little emotional. The technician gushed, "Dad, doesn't that sound lovely? This isn't his first child," my wife remarked without hesitation. To him, it's just another ordinary thing. Without hesitation, I proclaimed this to be a watershed event in my life. No idea could be more unique than this. Subsequently, the mood was obviously uncomfortable. The fact that Leah and my wife's parents were laughing in the living room was another thing that irritated me. I was preparing supper in the kitchen. As soon as I entered the room and inquired about the commotion, Leah was caressing my wife's belly and giggling with delight about the impending arrival of our little bundle of joy. While I was pregnant, my wife let Mill and our daughter to feel the baby move. Even though it hurt, I just expressed my happiness. My wife poked her belly and laughed later that night. "You felt Leah move when she was a newborn," she said when I asked her to feel too. "Put it this way, what could be better? She was the most adorable infant ever." Despite the fact that she has been in a lot of pain during her pregnancy, she still won't allow me to assist her. She will offer our daughter any food or drink that I give her. So that she doesn't feel neglected or replaced, she requests that I play with our kid whenever I attempt to rub her legs or feet. I will not turn a blind eye to my daughter. Even though I'm a very involved dad, I still want to love my wife, so we make time to interact. When I asked her what I could make for her, she said whatever Leah wanted, even though she barely eats. My wife began to feel sick when we took Leah to the zoo. She was experiencing terrible nausea, dizziness, cramping, and was contemplating a trip to the hospital. As I escorted her to a nearby bench, she broke down in tears, expressing her inability to stand. I threatened to carry her to the car and transport her to the hospital if she wouldn't allow me call an ambulance. We never even reached the aviary since she claimed she didn't want to spoil Leah's vacation. Much loved by Leah. When she asked whether I wanted to stay and see the zoo with Leah, I politely declined. Until her dad arrived, we sat for some time. He whisked her away to the doctor without her even informing me he was coming. Leah and I followed them after being startled. Leah was pouting and angry because she had missed the aviary when we got there. I didn't give a hoot about Leah's feelings of upset because my first priority was making sure my wife and unborn child were well. I was furious with my wife since I caused Leah to miss out. And here's another one: we were at a local kids' sport event, watching Leah play. I inquired, "Do you believe our child will have athletic abilities? Is it creative? Love mathematics and science?" This is Leah's moment. She argued we shouldn't waste it on someone who isn't even present. We were in the stands while Leah played on the field. Both of us had waved and held out a sign for her. Our baby is all I wanted to discuss. No one ever got her to stop gushing about it. All of her relatives, acquaintances, and brothers, etc. What do you think about my baby bump? So thrilled, I'm enormous. I still can't believe I only have X weeks to go. They all peddle their wares to her growing baby bump, etc. Throughout the day, her parents visit and read aloud books to her. Go to the beach with them? She is so prepared to be an honorary aunt that her pals have shared 1,000 images of her pregnancy on social media. Her sister wife is stunning and puts the B in stunning, assuming we decide to go out. Because she always wears the most baggy clothing, I never notice. When she sees me enter the room, I can even see her lowering her top. The other day, after some lively bedtime antics, she sat on me. Her baby bump was staring me down. You are an amazing mother to Leah, and you are the most stunning woman I have ever seen. I shook your hand and proclaimed it. As our family expands, I look forward to seeing you. I put my hand on her bump and told her, I love you so much already, I can't wait to meet you. It was one of the first times I could actually feel her growing baby. And to have your mom's eyes is my wish for you. No, my ex-partner had a bigger bump than me, she replied, shifting away from me. The constant movement of Leah must have been entertaining. Pretending to care is not required of you. This is nothing new for you. I don't see it that way, I declared. Leah has always been exceptional. But this is an entirely new and distinct special since our kid was born to her, and someone else entirely. I could see her shoulders trembling from crying as she started to leave the room. Without a doubt. She is not, and has never been cheating on me. I fail to see why she would not wish for my happiness over this. Everything else is as usual, so long as I keep the baby out of it. She showers me with affection, makes the first move toward intimacy, and boasts about how wonderful I am as a spouse and how wonderful this pregnancy has been. All the usual stuff. We have date nights, we plan for the future, etc. Regrettably, I lost my temper during our argument. During my lunch break from client work, I visited a nearby baby store and purchased several items inspired by her Pinterest board for the baby's nursery and arrival. Upon returning home, I bestowed upon her a bouquet of flowers, a coupon for prenatal massage, treats she adores, and all the necessary baby gear. The things were not there when he returned home from work, editors write, even though she appeared quite appreciative. Because she was afraid she would feel left out, she stated she sent it back to get Leah some goods. Having a child with her was the worst decision I've ever made, but at least my deadbeat ex-husband let me to meet my unborn child. So I lost it, cried for the first time throughout our marriage, and yelled that the infant was meaningless to me as she forbade me from forming any kind of attachment to it. I hope she's as miserable as she made me, and that she's ready for a custody battle. She told me that, so I do care. Leah thinks she's great. Just tell me I won't die before you take my kid away from me. I know you don't care about the baby. That's all she said. What on earth? I pleaded with her to let me hold our kid. I probed further, asking whether her therapist had any ideas as to her motivations. No, I'm not doing anything, she replied. I informed her of what I mentioned earlier, and she dismissed it, saying that I had gone through such things before. Even though I knew the kid was mine, I was being cruel when I asked her if it was mine. Indeed, she hurled her phone at me and ordered me to look it up. If you require a paternity test, I can provide one. We had an argument and went to a hotel, so I immediately contacted her parents and asked them to come to our house. She and our unborn child are too precious to me to risk stressing them out, and I wish I knew how to fix this. I'm currently residing at an Airbnb while we work this out. But I am utterly bewildered. She wants to act this way, and I don't even know why I miss her terribly. I regret my words, but they cannot be taken back. I am anxious about the impending birth of our child, and whether or not she will accept me as a parent. A common acquaintance of ours confided in me that she is inconsolable, that she loves me, and that she cannot be a single mother. Nevertheless, despite my repeated pleadings for her to change, her behavior consistently contradicts her words. Interesting remarks. Could you please explain your statement? User posted removed their vote. I wanted to inflict pain on her the way she has inflicted pain on me, so I uttered those things. That's all there is to it. My apologies. For my part, I'm sorry. She has repeatedly told me that you shouldn't care, and I have done everything in my power to make her feel hurt. It was an instinctive response, and it was also really immature and foolish of me. None of that had been in my plans. Someone who offers commentary. Yes, I do get the source of your anger. Has she clarified her motivation for making those statements? An odd thing is resentment. I believe she should have discussed it with you or your therapist if she had been experiencing such symptoms, even if she might not have been aware she had them until she became pregnant. Nothing. She has my utmost entreaty to discuss this with me. You can probably predict her reaction after I suggested we go to therapy together. Her tears betrayed her want to know if our marriage was dissatisfying. My intention was to be more interactive with you during this pregnancy, therefore I declined. My light has been turned off by you. I wanted to know if she was sad. She wanted out, didn't she? Decide she isn't interested in having a child. More tears appear to be. Genuine pain, I would even go so far as to say that. It is really perplexing to me. Evidently it would be best for me to observe from the sidelines. Could it be that she harbors animosity for your 5-year-old commenter? Could you tell me how you get along with Leah's mom? My gut tells me she isn't resentful. I believe she is likely the preferred mom because she adores my 5-year-old. We go to the park, museums, and I paint with my mom. Makes an appearance at school functions. Always bakes muffins with mom, helps out when she's unwell, and tailors our vacations to my 5-year-old's interests. My wife went into a tailspin when her cousin mentioned something about not bringing her stepdaughter. She firmly stated that our family does not utilize titles that divide us. She is my kid, and she will not be treated any differently because of who she is. During her first trimester, we went on a brief vacation to visit some relatives, and she sobbed nonstop about how much she missed Leah. Since the day we met, she has been undergoing treatment for her sadness and anxiety. However, this is obviously useless. At her doctor's appointment, I've brought up the possibility of prenatal depression, but she doesn't seem to understand because she becomes overly excited whenever I mention the baby. The comment regarding consulting an attorney was downvoted since, in all likelihood, he will not be permitted to attend the birth and the couple should simply split. It's something I'm always worried about. I can feel the utter sadness that will wash over Leah. The presence of my wife's mother in the delivery room has been previously brought up. It would be more embarrassing for her if I were present this time since I have witnessed the birth of my child before. Someone who offers commentary. You two should get into couples counseling right now. After either her first or second remark, you need to have begun it. You've been aware for a while. Something was off. Give her OB a call and tell her everything is happening. Make it clear that she has never acted differently before being pregnant, and ask them to document her behavior change. I should have paid more attention. I foolishly thought it was just pregnancy-related. She struggled with illness throughout her pregnancy. For a long time, I was severely underweight, extremely self-conscious about my body, and ravenous all the time. Even though I really expected things would grow worse, she is now doing great and has a healthy weight. Looking back, it's clear that the first remarks were more profound than that. Why on earth did you utter all that crap, commenter? Sure, she was behaving strangely, but you totally screwed up. What you just stated is absolutely repugnant and may not be forgiven. What a good-hearted man you appeared to be. My apologies, I completely mess up. Even if it doesn't matter much to her now, I have apologized for my mistake. Whatever I could say to make her feel pain, I said it. There had been months of animosity. Festering. I begged her for months to let me in on what's happening, share baby names with her, and tell me what's going on. My pain has not yet fully subsided. I really want to be a full-time dad to my kid and be there for her, so I'm crossing my fingers that it can be fixed. The idea of dividing up the time spent with the kids is heartbreaking. After the aviary incident, explains his connection to Leah. It was completely irrelevant to me that we missed the aviary. The zoo is a frequent stop for us, and I had assured them we would return. Your pregnant wife starts to scream because her legs aren't working, she can't move, and she fears she might die from the intense cramps in her abdomen. You are unconcerned about failing to visit the aviary. My child did not hear me say that I didn't care. In the hospital, I reassured my wife that the health of our unborn kid was of the utmost importance, and that Leah might be angry and pouty until we knew for sure that she and our baby were okay. We take care of Leah in every way. Whether my wife is around or not, Leah and I are able to bond. Fishing, arcade trips, and playing Barbies are some of our favorite things to do together. Our bond inspires self-assurance in my daughter. She quickly responded, "Fine. I know Dad will always play with me," after my dad recently expressed his desire to stop playing horse games with her. I have never abused or neglected my child, and I will never do it. I was more worried about my wife than my daughter going to the aviary, so this is really far-reaching. As for the other commenter, she is 5 years old and incredibly intelligent. The importance of the hospital and ambulance cannot be overstated, as she is well aware when individuals are critically ill. She was empathic and advised me to fetch my wife some medicine for her stomach so we could continue because she knew how horrible she felt. Cry about it? I never said that. We're leaving. I did let her know that we would be accompanying Mom and Grandpa to the doctor because Mom was sick. I also mentioned that we could return another day and treat Mom to ice cream when she gets better, because she missed out on seeing the birds. Like all youngsters do, she pouted. Was it obvious to her that my wife was more important to me? Yes. She went so far as to say that Grandpa appeared distressed. Even though we reside in a hot and humid area, my wife's complexion turned pale, and she started complaining of being cold. I was terrified. Whenever you get to the hospital and would like to get updates. Feeling all right? Where is the infant? And your pouting wife is the only thing she wants to talk about, her frustration that you didn't take the kids to the zoo. My body aches from it. Write a comment for her. And this is coming from someone who boasts about being an excellent spouse.
Why hasn't he brought this up with his wife earlier? If her behavior is so unusual and deviant from her usual self, why hasn't he brought it up in their conversation? A few comments would have any in the know partner rushing to find out what was going on. He simply allowed that crap to float. You don't believe I've discussed this with her. Every time I am silenced. After asking her to speak to me for what felt like an eternity, I finally snapped. This did not happen by chance. I have physically knelt down in front of her and asked, why are you doing this? I have also wanted to know what her therapist has told her and if we could perhaps attend therapy sessions together. Plus, she denies. Understanding my point of view, I am utterly and utterly irritated by it. It's difficult to act as if nothing extraordinary is happening when you observe something so remarkable go by. My outburst was not due to a lack of effort. However, I do not expect pity for my words. I last made a post approximately 1 month ago. After I wrote, stewed, and had a few drinks, several generous Redditors contacted me to provide advice, share their stories, and ask for an update, so I apologize if this is lengthy. I feel was contacted. His opinion matters to me, and he and my wife are really close. He appears to be enjoying his long-term marriage and enjoys positive ties with all members of his family. It was obvious we were having problems because he was over at my house while I was living in an Airbnb, even though I didn't explain what they were. He has a more conventional view of marriage and once asked me why I should force her to open up when I knew it would only hurt her. I expressed my concern that I would alienate her even more, and he basically informed me that my pregnant wife and I were living in separate houses. Worrying excessively about the possibility of a divorce, what could I possibly lose? He told me to return to my house and hang it up like a man. The next day I informed him I will be dropping over. They wanted to spend the night at their place and take Leah shopping for holiday sparklers. I consented, and the following day I returned to my house, accompanied by flowers and dinner ingredients. When my wife wanted to know why I was there, I told her I lived there and would be happy to have a chat. I deeply regretted what I had said and done. After I finished, I asked her to fill me in on what had happened. As if nothing were wrong, she pretended everything was fine. Eventually, I told you that you had shattered my heart since we had been through so much together, battled for each other, and now you were lying to me. While we sat there, she sobbed for half an hour before finally admitting that she thought our relationship would fail if she were to be honest. I assured her that I would give her my whole attention. That this would be her first child rather than mine was difficult for her to accept. She said she didn't give it much thought and it didn't really bother her until she became pregnant. When she lay in bed at night, she thought about how our family would still be intact if my ex had chosen to raise Leah and how she wouldn't really care for her anymore. A lot of the things she was looking forward to doing with me, like watching me get passionate over our baby or wanting to touch her bump or spoil her, made her think of me and my ex. She had expressed her eagerness to have a child with her soulmate to a close friend when she was in the early stages of her pregnancy. In response, her buddy expressed her belief that soulmates were a special breed of people who were destined to be together and had no other children or baby mums. She was distraught and wanted to know if I shared her belief that we were soulmates. No one ever aspired to have a family that consisted of members from varied backgrounds, but she characterized herself and our unborn child as my sloppy seconds. That she
was merely a stand-in for the family I had in mind when that one fell through. I couldn't help but compare my pregnant physique to the ones my ex had shown on social media, she added. She was worried that I wouldn't see the baby as worthy of Leah. As I would inquire as to her expectations for the unborn child, her anxieties would surface, such as what if the child had special needs, disliked our favorite family activities, or developed feelings of animosity toward Elle. She mentioned that there was a moment when she wished I hadn't had Leah, just so she wouldn't have to worry. That's when she realized she needed to make a real effort to keep in touch with Leah. She was worried that I wouldn't be able to bond with the baby because of my job and Leah, just like the fathers she read about online who didn't spend time with their kids until they were able to spend time with the family. She was concerned that the baby wouldn't measure up to Leah when I attempted to form a bond with her. I have always been open and honest about my feelings about being a parent and how raising Leah, my wife, and our child together have been the most rewarding experiences of my life. She mentioned that it was the first thing that gave her the courage to marry me and the enthusiasm to start a large family with me. Since the tension is the same but the novelty isn't, I've been wondering whether her pregnancy and this kid will be an experience of joy or sorrow for me. What if Leah, who is capable of doing things, is more fascinating to me than a baby or toddler? Various men's accounts of how they don't form a bond with their children until they're 4 years old or older were among the many pieces she showed me. She also shared videos with me in which parents talk about how they were anxious with their first child but become more laid back with subsequent ones. People obviously stopped caring as their family sizes increased, which scared her. She confessed that she worried she was causing strife in our family and putting distance between Leah and me. For instance, she mentioned that she sobbed on her way to the hospital while in the zoo. She was worried that Leah would despise her and become resentful of the baby, since we had to cut our zoo visit short. and that Leah would be angry that I was using my sick day to visit the hospital instead of planning an outing with her. Leah and my wife spend a lot of time exploring the neighborhood parks, library, and other places while I'm at work. We also go for bike rides together on weekends, which is one of their favorite things to do. Unfortunately, she has not been able to take use of the many local trails because of her pregnancy. Lately, we've started spending more time indoors. According to my wife, Leah would constantly complain that she hates me while I'm at work since I don't let her ride her new bike nearly as often. Because it is inappropriate, I stated that I would talk to her about it. Because Leah was about to undergo so many changes, my wife begged me not to. She said it grieved her to think that we would no longer be able to go bicycling together. Leah and I were invited by my wife to read stories aloud a few months ago. My wife's favorite story from her childhood was the second one I read to the baby, and Leah picked the first one, and Leah, since it facilitates bonding and increases brain activity. Then I picked up another book that Leah had recommended. Leah tore pages out of the book my wife had picked out the day after I was at work. She had planned to tell me, but her friend, the same friend who claims we aren't soulmates, warned me that I would suspect she was lying, and that she appeared to be trying to put herself between Leah and me. When I pressed her for an explanation, she said that she was uncomfortable sharing the details since she couldn't make sense of them herself. So that she wouldn't feel lonely or envious, she wanted me to hang out with Leah. Moreover, she expressed her disappointment that I wasn't devoting more time to her once I did. Though she adores Leah, she secretly hopes we could have a family of our own. Even though she wants me around, she gets angry and guilty whenever I hold our unborn child. She explained her fear by saying she didn't want me to see her as an attempt to mediate between Leah and me. After I began to question her about what was wrong and whether she needed therapy, etc., she said that she had come to terms with the fact that her behavior was inappropriate. She was afraid to confront the fact that she had let her worst fears come true by ignoring my feelings and turning a blind eye to the many opportunities we had together, so she redoubled her efforts to avoid us. Not to mention the fact that her first pregnancy was not without its share of challenges, all of which stemmed from her own choices. It was then that I understood how awful I had been. I felt bad that she felt she couldn't talk to me about anything, so I apologized for that. Apparently, she discovered several online forums where people were attacking the poster for expressing their sentiments about their stepchild while researching her feelings. That I might experience a similar emotion. She claimed she couldn't understand how I could be anything other than hostile toward Leah if I had shown my feelings for her in the same way she had. We both sobbed for quite some time. I attempted to comfort her. I expressed my deep affection for her. I was overjoyed to find out that she belonged to the family I had always wanted and that I had found my soulmate in her. It was as if the universe had orchestrated our reunion because it knew that Leah and I needed her. She expressed regret for her treatment of me and promised to make things right. When I was about to have my tantrum, she claimed she was going to apologize, but she was taken aback by my yelling and thought she could have done something really wrong to provoke such a response from me. For what felt like an eternity, we sobbed our hearts out. Did I want to feel the baby? She even asked. Yes, I did indeed say so. Much more sobbing ensued. It was a fantastic night after all. We had a good laugh about my worry as I cooked dinner. For guidance, I turned to Reddit. Her desire to read the post caused her to cry once more. I told her we could get over this, and she mentioned that reading the responses from other ladies in a similar situation made her feel better. The first week felt a little strange after all the months of stress. When she roused me from my slumber on Saturday by softly murmuring "baby wants blueberry pancakes," I knew things were starting to look good. I promise I've never made pancakes so quickly I couldn't help but crack a smile. A few days later we went to a pool party, and she let me choose out her swimwear. A significant matter for someone who exclusively wore loose clothing when they were in my presence. On the way home from taking family pictures, she asked me to feel her belly, and I felt our kid hiccuping, something I'd never felt before, and it was the first experience we could share as a family. Clearly, the universe was smiling down on me. Even when she's sick, she lets me help her out.
Without bringing up Leah as an excuse. My indication to lift her tummy up has been when she turns her back to me and raises her arm. She is sore all over, so I spend a lot of time massaging her many sore areas, including her tummy, feet, legs, back, shoulders, and hips. It brought tears to my eyes the first 500 times. Participating has been a tremendous relief. I never expected to be assigned the responsibility of obtaining the most arbitrary food products at 2 in the morning. It is, in fact, a fantastic moment for me. I still feel bad about all the things I didn't get to do. Like you, I feel bad for her. She breaks down in tears as she expresses how much simpler things are and how much heavier they were before she spoke to me. She regrets not talking to me sooner. My wife has some guilt that I have been trying to alleviate. There were a number of easy fixes, I realized. Take my experience getting a tow behind the trailer from my neighborhood bike store as an example. Now I'll put her in there so she can use an ice pack and a little fan while Leah gets to go bike riding. To make more time for them, I have taken time off work. Fortunately, we are all attending therapy together, and Leah's therapist has been consistently positive. She feels a strong attachment to us, loves spending time with us, is handling things well, and is even looking forward to being a big sister. Despite my wife's fears that her therapist could detect a change in her demeanor, she had just one gripe with her: the 32-minute delivery time she experienced after forgetting her sweets. My wife is battling her bad emotions by attending therapy. At this point, that is essentially our situation. Working tirelessly to complete our preparations, we are drawing near to the time of our baby. Reassurance is still necessary for my wife. When she brings up my ex, I find it helpful to bring up our first relationship. For instance, she often inquires about specifics and how I felt about them. To change the subject to us, I will just state that I do not wish to discuss that. Recall our first house, won't you? My first trip abroad? Was this your first kiss? Date? You remember that period, right? I am even more smitten with you because of it. Remind me of the day you and Leah convinced me to blah. I still consider it a cherished property. My wife's prolonged suffering saddens me. In my opinion, she lost a lot of agency when she spoke it aloud. When you're going through a tough period emotionally, I think most people can relate to how terrible it is to have thoughts that don't feel like your own. I ought to have defended our friendship and her mental health a lot sooner. I should have recognized that she needed assistance sooner, but I let her ignore me for too long. I am grateful to all those who got in touch or gave me some words of wisdom. My wife gave me the go-ahead before I shared this extensively. With any luck, it will be of assistance to someone else going through what she did. In short, my wife was dealing with insecurity and mental health difficulties, but she didn't want to talk to me about them because they affected our biological kid. Fortunately, my FIL and all of you offered sound advice, and after discussing it, we were able to resolve the issue. Things are getting back to normal now, and I can participate in my wife's pregnancy after a few uncomfortable moments. Leah is among those who are doing great and can't wait for the baby to come. Appropriate feedback. Commenter: I am curious about your wife's progress with her pal. Before a serpent bit her ear, she apparently never gave her fears a second thought. Our home is no longer a welcoming place for this buddy, op. Being part of my wife's wider circle of friends makes it difficult to exclude her. This friend has been through a lot recently, so my wife was a bit hesitant. But just the other night, my wife had a girls' night and I was leaving just as her buddies were coming over. I wished them well, and complimented her on her stunning appearance. My wife informed me upon my return that this acquaintance had publicly stated that I might be encouraging her at the moment. I won't detail what happened after birth, though. I intend to pursue her. That was a cruel and inaccurate statement, according to my wife. It was just a joke, she added. Considering how emotionally fragile we are right now, I told my wife I did not want her around. Whoever they is, they obviously do not want what's best for us. With that, she gave her assent. If you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any more harrowing true stories like this one.